Haas School of Business at University of California at Berkeley, where Bank of America recruited a lot of MBAs in an earlier period. I can assure you that ours is really quite attractive and functional compared to the big kind of socialist, impersonal buildings that the University of California put up in the Haas Business School area, which houses this particular center. So I'm honored to be at Carthage. I've enjoyed it very much and hope to continue to do so. And Tom Clausen really represented the right way to live your life, as well as extraordinarily effective executive skills. He was head of Bank of America twice during our stagnation of the 1970s, and then had a second round as CEO during the savings and loan crisis of the late 80s, which some older people here will remember. And in between, he was president of the World Bank, one of the big UN institutions. He succeeded a man named Robert McNamara, a name from the past. McNamara had greatly increased the risk-taking and lending in the bank. Tom deserves a lot of credit for improving a balance sheet that actually had become somewhat weak in terms of renegotiating complex loans that were being repaid at low 1950s and 60s interest rates and generating a lot of new income from the governments. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia and other states in that part of the world, as well as China and Taiwan, joined the World Trade Organization, and they are now full participants in these big economic institutions at the UN, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Trade Organization, as some of you know well. And to me, that personifies the future, which is market economics and basically the rule of law, despite bad news on a regular basis, on a daily basis. The long-term trends are definitely very positive. And I believe both my friend and colleague, Yuri Maltsev, and our very, very impressive and influential guest, Dr. Usanov from Russia, both personify these tremendous and very positive changes to me. Americans should be very, very happy. Whatever may be going on in Washington, we should be very happy about the way the world is unfolding. So now that I've warmed up the crowd, I'll turn it over to our chairman, Professor Maltsev.
Well, at first, thank you very much for coming. Only once in my life I met Mr. Brezhnev. There was such a dictator in the Soviet Union, and he came to the office where we were supposed to have a meeting with him, and there was only 5 of us. And he came in, he said, "Where are the people?" And I said, "We are right here." And then he said, "Oh, today we have quality instead of quantity." And that's what I think we definitely have today. I know almost all of you, and thank you very much for your interest in Russia. There was a great Russian philosopher, Peter Chadaev. He used to say that Russia was an absurdity created by Lord to teach mankind some awful lesson all the time. And so Pavel Usanov is a very famous and very visible Russian economist. He is very visible in Russia. He is teaching in higher school for economics. He is also a researcher at the European University at St. Petersburg. He attended many conferences here in the United States, organized by Cato Institute, by Mises Institute. I just was with him. He was on the panel that I chaired. Panel was on socialism in New York and the King's College in New York last Friday. And so he came with me. He never been to Chicago, and we never heard Dr. Usanov here at Carthage, so we kind of benefit from mutually beneficial exchange. That's what free market economics is all about. He is author of books that he will show you. The books, he's a very popular writer. One of these books is a bestseller in Russia called The Future of Money. Then also, it's called a Trilogy of Freedom. There's all this collection of books. If I think Dr. Usanov will tell us a little bit more about himself, we would be happy. But I think that we're all happy to have him here, and he will tell us about Russia, about Russian economy, and if you want to ask him about how Russia was electing our president or something like that, you're also welcome to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Yuri, for the great introduction. I'm happy to be here, and I feel myself today like Petr Chadaev, but new incarnation of Petr Chadaev, because today I will talk about the experience of modern Russia policy, and I would like to recommend you don't try it in your history. Today I will talk about very interesting story for me. This is very interesting. I hope it will be interesting for you also. In 2002, in the beginning of the century, our president in Russia, Vladimir Putin, was asked, "Who is your favorite politician?" And the answer was Ludwig Erhard, one of the famous, I think, liberal politician and economist in post-war Germany. He made reforms and created something like German mirror, something amazing economic growth in the Germany after World War II. It was the beginning of his period of power. In this period, he got also second question about Russian idea. Maybe you saw something about discussion about what is Russian idea. It's very important for our intelligence in Russia. And many people think that it's something spiritual, that Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, and another writers said about Russian idea to union different peoples, maybe Christianity, maybe Orthodox Church. What is Russian idea? We have many discussion at this moment also, not in the history. But what was the answer of our president Vladimir Putin by this question? What is the main Russian idea for today? And the answer was competition. We have to create good items for the global market. We need economic growth. We need stable rules. We need private property. We need something that we usually named capitalism. And capitalism was the first step of his reform. It sounds like something miracle, but his reform included next point: flat taxes, flat income taxes. Maybe it's something impossible for the countries like Sweden or maybe for US to have low and flat income taxes. And level of these taxes was 13%. Not 20, not 30, 13. This is a level of tax of income, and it was a flat in this period. What is the main consequences of this? High economic growth in the beginning of this century, more than 7% by the year. This is something amazing for Russian economy and Russian history, because in every period we could see something maybe good for industries, like in the period of Stalin's industrialization, but not for the consumer. Maybe in the period of the 20s, when was NEP, maybe you know something about new economic policy, Bolshevik, and before the Stalin. It was a period of economic growth, but only 5 years. After this was collectivization and repression. And in the beginning of the 20th century, it was 21st century, it was another tendency. 10 years sustainable economic growth. High prices of oil, big investment from the Western countries, many contacts in politics and economic field, in international relationship, etc. But at this moment, I should say that we don't have a future if he will go through this way like a Putin's mind. My presentation today is about Putinomics. I think you understood what it means. It means economic policy, politics, social structure of current modern Russia, especially around the central figure. Central figure in our economy today, in Russian economy today, it's of course President Vladimir Putin, 20 years after his first year in the Kremlin. And this is a very interesting story, because at this moment in Russia, we don't have economic growth. We have decline of our economy, of our income, very low level of income, and no future, no career for ambitious people in the biggest cities in Russia, but not only in cities. We have more than 140 million people in Russia, very creative. And at this moment, it's something problematic. I would like to show you 3 pictures. This is a photo of 3 people from Russia. They are businessmen, one of very influential businessmen. And I would explain you what is the common of these 3 different people. First, Mikhail Khodorkovsky was a leader and manager of biggest oil company in Russia in the period of Putin. The name of this company, Yukos, and his capital was $15 billion. This is his own capital as a result of the management of resources. He one of the richest men in the Russia. He was one of the richest men in the world. At the left of this picture, Mikhail Khodorkovsky. What about next picture? This is one of the, I think, interesting entrepreneur in the post-Soviet period, because he created company, very successful company in retail, like maybe Apple Store, but for the Russian audience. He also was very rich man, very influential man in the economy, politics, and I think in business, of course, yes. Oh, it's a problem for the clicker. And what about third person? Youngest businessman from Russia, Pavel Durov. He is IT entrepreneur from St. Petersburg, like me. His name Pavel Valerievich in Russia, and me too. I'm Pavel Valerievich. But he is Durov, and me, Usanov. And also he is, like me, 37. What about this person? He's a founder of the most popular in Russia social network, like Facebook, but for the Russian citizen. 10 million people in this social network, very popular in Russia, more than, I think, Facebook. And not so bad social network. For me, it's more pretty. But it's nothing better what today for this my speech. And also, he's a founder of Messenger Telegram. Maybe you saw something about this project like WhatsApp, Viber, etc. Yes, at this moment it has Telegram. You could find Telegram in this list of Messenger. But what is the common of these 3 people? They lose his business in Russia, and now they not in Russia. Mikhail Khodorkovsky lost his company, and now this company in the hand of the state, Rosneft. and I think biggest friend of Vladimir Putin at this moment is the owner of this company. Khodorkovsky spent 10 years in the prison, and now he's in Europe. This is a result of big ambition. If you will be very success man, but without power in Russia, you will have a big problem with your property, because our president is an ex-KGB officer. And what it mean? It means if you don't have money, but you have enough power, you're a lucky man, because it's not a problem for you. The winner take it all. You can take this company. It's not a problem, but this is a problem, of course, for economic growth in the long run. It was in 2004, then Khodorkovsky lost his company. What about Evgeny Chichvarkin? He also not in Russia today. He is living in London and created new company for the retail wine, elite wine for the very rich people in the center of London. It's not so big business because retail like Apple Store, it's a big company, but it's enough for him at this moment, I think. It's a very interesting story because he also was very success man and lost his company, and at this moment he can't visit Russia. If he tried to visit Russia, he will be in prison. And the third, Pavel Durov. He is also not in Russia today. He is sometime, I think, in Europe, sometime in the United States. His social network in the hands of the biggest company in Russia, Gazprom, also state company. And this is true story about the same, about the state and the market, about the beginning of economic growth in the 2000s, and the result of this in 2019. Today we don't have economic growth. We don't have economic freedom. And it's simple to understand, because if you will destroy your businessman, if you will destroy property rights, if you don't have a fair trial, you will have big problem in economic field. And that's we have today. I will talk about. Let me tell you a few about your own policy, about friendship. For Russian people, Trump and Putin is friends. It doesn't mean that Russian people think that it's a good guy or bad guy. It's not so important for Russian politics today. Last, I think, 5 years, we have stagnation in economy. And usually, if you have stagnation, you have a problem in your election. You need to choose something another to choose another way of economic development. But it's very hard for this system, because it means that you should cut your power. And this is not the case for today's Putin. But he has another tool for hold his power. It's not economic reforms. It's not economic freedom. First, this is repression against opposition. And the second is propaganda. This is very important if you have all media in your hand, because biggest channel in Russia in the hand of the state, biggest oil company in the hand of the state, biggest social network company in the hand of the state. You don't have resources for opposite to have different view of the future. But our country, I think it's a good, the best place where you're from, but not the best place where you are. At this moment, we don't have any perspective for ambition, men's and women's, of course. This picture and friendship of these guys means something important for Russian propaganda, because I think we have something like post-Soviet syndrome, empire syndrome, after the collapse of Soviet Union. Yes, Soviet economy was very, very inefficient, and it's something crazy. But Russia was the biggest empire, and everybody afraid us because we have nuclear weapon, we have tanks, and etc. We can use our power to destroy everybody, everything. And it's something like be proud. Not to be rich, but to be proud. I think it's something like substitution. If you don't have economic growth, in open society, in liberal society, you will have a problem. But in totalitarian and authoritarian system, people believe that maybe we don't have good job, maybe we don't have enough money, but we're empire. We're biggest country in the world. Everybody afraid us. And also, Trump is our president, says Russian propaganda. It's not a joke. It's partly a joke, but many people believe that Putin is so great. Maybe he will create something like miracle right now. And Trump is his gift to the world, present to the world. Everybody have to love Putin because Trump is his project. It's something like crazy or bizarre, but in Russian propaganda, Putin is the greatest leader in our history, more than Stalin, more than everybody. Stalin is a hero right now in Russia. He is most popular figure in Russian society. It's something amazing. Everybody know how many people he destroyed. Million, and very creative people, very smart, fair, but it's not the case for today Russian society. It's something like crazy because in the beginning, I will repeat, in the beginning of this century, it was different. Who is your favorite politician? Erhard. What is the main idea, Russian idea? Competition. It's not sound like I will catch your territory and to create empire. But step by step, if you not limit your state, you will have something like Leviathan. One hand of this Leviathan is a state, another is a church. Because in Russia, we have, I think, official church, Orthodox church, and the alliance between the state and the church is a very important tool to hold the people on his situation, not so comfortable situation. It looks like something amazing and so sad. And I think it's not so good idea to shake the hand of this man. I don't know. If I will be an American citizen, I think it will be best choice for today, I think, because don't have another. But I am not citizen of the United States, and in Russia it's look like this good guy makes something good. But I don't know what is this. I'm not sure that his real activity is something good for the Russia, for everybody, not only for Russia, for everybody. Okay, let's try to analyze importance of Russian economy today, because I think many politicians and people from United States think that it may be not so pretty to have a friend like Putin, but maybe we will have a future, in future we will have something profitable, because he's a very influential guy. And what you could take? I think the answer will be connected with the economy. What size of economy do you have? At this picture, who is cool guy? At the left or at the right? For Russian propaganda, at the left. But they may be the same level. But if you compare the level of economy, it's something like small boy and giant. United States is the biggest economy in the world right now. And of course, for me, it's obviously result of economic freedom. Of course, you have problem with economic freedom right now, but you couldn't compare this with Russia. We have more problem than you have. And at this moment, United States is 25% of world GDP, biggest country. Second is China, and I think it's correct. It's not maybe fair, but it's necessary. If you have a big economy, you will have ambition in international relationship. And for China and for United States, it's something reasonable to be very active in the international relationship. But if you are leader of Russian economy, and Russian economy at this time, it's only 2% from all the world. Only 2. But ambition, I think, equal 200, maybe 300. Earth is not enough. Maybe cosmos, yes. Space is a good idea for Soviet competition. I think the Putin, like a Soviet leader, dream about space. Okay, you should know this situation in the world economy right now. Today I will talk about the Kremlin and to concentrate about the economic and politics. Let me tell you about one of the most important problems in Russia today. This is protest movement. I say to you about this. I will show you our problems in economy. We have very, very low level of income. And let me show you this table. Sorry. Yes. I think it's very useful table in Russian, but I will translate it. It's very simple to understand. What is the good income or wage for Russian? At this moment in Russia, we have wage near 480 euro per month. It means near 20 euro per day. This is, I think, average income or average wage in Russia today. Before the geopolitical crisis, before the Crimea and conflict with Ukraine, it was near 700 euro per month. This is very low level of income. It's reasonable for the poor country. This is reasonable for the country which have only 2% of world GDP. If you want to live the better, you need something to change. Economic reforms, you need more investment, you need stable rules, rule of law, and etc. This is a very important tool for the future. Russian economy today is very poor economy, not only in the field of the worker class, but for the old men and women too. Because this is the table of pension in Russia today, the level of the pension in Russia, the level of the pension in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Let me add something about this table. You could compare level of our wage in average and in the Moscow. This is the level of wage in Moscow. Not so big, but more than in other cities. And also I would like to tell you about what kind of profession right now can be used. For common people right now, not so many ways for the future. 1/3 of our families have resources from the state and have one of person in family who get money from the state for the police, etc. If you walk through the city in Russia, you will see, I think, masses of policemen and Rosguardia. Rosguardia, this is the private, I think, police of the Vladimir Putin. Because Rosguardia, it's not the same like police. This is military, but they have right connection between the president and this department of military, yes. And you don't have any perspective if you don't connect with the state. And this is very sad because I think it's normal for every country to use human resources. The best and the main source of economic growth in open society is human capital. But for Russia today, it's not the case. The main resource for our economy, it's oil and gas. People, it's not resource. You have to pay, you have to give him money for the job, etc. If you are dictatorship, you prefer to have only tube to the western countries or eastern countries with oil and gas, and second tube with money. You don't need the people. One tube, this is the export of oil and gas, and another tube, this is the dollars and euro. People, why do you need them? It's enough for this system, and the level of wages show us this big problem in Russia today. Let me tell you about the protest movement. This summer, last summer, in Russia was very hot because we had many protests in the centers of our cities, especially in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. People just trying to show that they believes that we can live better, and we would like to change our future just walking. It's just a peaceful walking from the streets. But it was banned by the state, and as a result, people like this was arrested. 10 days if you just walk, and we have few examples of real prison, more than 5 or 6 years, for the person who just wait his friend near the subway. You can Google Pavel Usanov, is just an actor in the theater in Moscow. At the Sunday, he just stay at the center of the square and something do with his iPhone maybe. And people from Rosguardia catch him and put him into the bus. And one of these policemen, maybe it's a correct name, it's not correct because he's from Rosguardia, to damage his own leg when he beat this just actor. He makes something wrong, his own guilty, and broke his legs or something. Not so serious. But what about the result? What about fair trial? He was convicted courts by 5 years because he was aggressive against police. He did nothing against police, just stay. But at this moment, he became guilty. Guilty is a view of the state. Another interesting case, it's situation in YouTube, because if you have all the resources in official media, YouTube will be most influential for the people who try to get another information. But bloggers in Russia is very influential group of people. Not, of course, only in Russia, but for Russia it's very important, because if you don't have any way to official media, you have only YouTube. I understood that you have something like this, but it's not correct to compare. In Moscow, in Higher School of Economics, I was a professor of Higher School of Economics, but not in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, and economics department, 8 years. And this student just published his video in YouTube channel, his own YouTube channel, more than 100,000 subscribers and many views. He was not at the square when was protesting movement. He just talked to the people about not you need to fight against the state or something like this. He just quoted Lao Tzu, Tolstoy, and Gandhi, because this philosopher said enough against the state, every state. But at this moment, he would go to the president because he is extremist. We have legislation against extremism. It's like terrorism. You are enemy of the state, and it's a big problem for Russian policy today. Maybe I so depressed you, and you would like to ask me, don't you afraid to be in Russia, to talk about the Putin and etc. It doesn't matter, for if you live in Russia, no matter why I now live in Russia, but you have a chance to be in prison in every case. You can laugh and speak that Putin is greatest. No, it doesn't matter. You will be at the prison. You will speak that he is a bad guy and not to be at prison. Nobody understands what is the rule. And I think this is a very important tool for any dictator, because if you will be clear for the citizen, they will do something that they can and not do something that will be dangerous. But you don't know. You walking through the street, you something to talk and something to write, and maybe it will be, maybe not, the source of your own problems. And this is the very important instrument for violence. This picture for me, it's something like best illustration of discussion, conversation between the state and the society. At the left hand we see Rosguardia, very influential argument. Stick. It's very, very important argument against your argument. What do you think? No, you don't write. Take it, please. And at the right, this is a man, woman, girls, boys, without everything, without good armed clothes, without sticks, without everything. One of the people from protest movement dropped to the policeman cup of coffee, like this, cup of coffee dropped to the policeman at the period of aggression, because they beat the man after the land and he can't do nothing. But video cameras show to the state that he dropped something and make something mental disease of this officer, or not officer, member of Rosguardia. Mental disease. It's something amazing. But this is a true story about discussion between the state and about the society. And I think you should remember this picture when you will see good guy from Kremlin who shakes the hands of another good guy. I don't think that is a good idea. Tell me, please, I would like to say about this man at the floor in the center of Moscow. Who? This guy. Just the man who tried to run through the center. He made jogging from his own home to the park, through the central square. And people from police saw him jogging and captured him. They remove, it's very interesting, remove him to this place and break his leg. He's just common guy who jog in the center of our city. What will be in the United States if you will have all videos, photos? They people not will be in police, I think, I hope. And this guy will get good medicine and I think money because he's not guilty. But what about our fair trials? It's not the case. He is guilty. It's a decision. And he have to pay to the state because he is opposition. He was at the square in the period of mass movement against ban of opposition to the election, because this is the source of the protest movement. Few opposition was banned to the election. Our political system is very bizarre. At the one hand, we have permanent election, but in another, we have repression against opposition. And if you have one tool, repression against opposition, it's not a problem to have election, because only your friends and good guys will be the winner. The winner takes it all. And we know who is this guy. I told you about no matter who you are, you're from biggest party in Russia. It's something like a PSS, Russian party in the Soviet period. But at this moment we have Единая Россия. I think it will be Union Russia. Yes, it's correct to pronounce for English for American audience. This is a fake party. Of course, they tell only something good about Russian politics and bad about, for example, American politics. It's very important for propaganda to take a picture that the Russia is a very clear and very fair state, but in other countries, we don't understand why, hates Russia. Everybody hates Russia and have a dream to capture new territory, sources, and etc. It's something like phobia, but phobia not spontaneous phobia, but this is a result of propaganda. If you will see our TV, I think if you're a smart guy with a healthy mind, you will feel pain, because it's something bizarre. At one hand, it's something stupid, but in another, it's not Soviet period, because now it's a market economy, and government and state can take best human resources from journalism, from the media, and it's a good picture, good video for propaganda. It's not something with low quality like in Soviet period. Nobody believes in this propaganda because it was something like joke for idiots. I don't know who believes in this. In Russia, it's also absolutely crazy, but with more money. If you have enough resources, I mean oil, gas, etc., you can capture best human capital, not only in Russia. For example, in Ukraine, most popular in Russia television, Kiselev. This is a very important figure in our media. He is from Ukraine. He is from Ukraine, and at this time he tell to the Russian people that we can destroy, even we should maybe destroy with nuclear weapon Manhattan. Because America is crazy and you have to afraid us. This is the program of our official channel, and Kiselov is the most influential journalist in our television, or something crazy in this field, not like Kiselov, like maybe Solovyov. It's not interesting for right now. This is this guy from the official party. He's not the enemy. I think it's trying to show for the camera, this camera show us, that this guy on the square and the police did only the good things. He spoke this to the camera, and at the moment he spoken about this, the people from Rosguardia catch it and catch him up and take him to the bus. No matter who you are for president or against, he just stay at this place. I think it was near the story about Pavel Usanov, maybe 50 meters, one place. And he was also arrested. He is not opposition. He is from official party. Doesn't matter. And this guy is a main, I think, figure in this story. What about the consequences of this policy? Repeat again. In the beginning of this period, we had economic growth. We had competition as a goal for our policy. It's not the case for today's policy. At this moment, we have stagnation after the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. This is the result of capture of Crimea. What was the next step of this conflict? Sanctions from the United States against friend of Putin. It's not sanctions against Russian people, but doesn't matter. Propaganda creates miracle. Why we have so problem? I need to say something more. After American sanctions, our parliament, with the president, creates our answer to the United States and Europe. Sanctions from Russia to the world. You have to be afraid, because we will ban your products to our country. Nobody, I think, knows something about Russian ban of import, but it was something like contra-sanctions, or sanctions against United States, like an answer of the sanctions against Russia. You hit me, I hit you. This is the logic of this activity. And consequences of this policy is very clear, because main problem is not US sanctions. US sanctions is something perfect, because you give the punch to the people who make something amazing, something stupid for our policy. It's only a part, small, very, very small part of our country, because we have more than 140 million people, not only friends of Putin. But propaganda creates another picture. Our low level, our stagnation, is a result not of our anti-sanctions. It's a result of American sanctions. But true story is that the biggest problem for our economy, it was anti-sanctions, sanctions against Europe. What is this? What is this? This is the ban of fruits, vegetables, meat from European Union, you will have a big problem, because we wouldn't eat your apples, your meat, your fish. We will eat only Russian apples, and you will pay. It will be something strong for you. But real consequences was not decline of the West, decline of the Russian economy and real income, because 5 years after these anti-sanctions, we saw stagnation. And you could compare this with economic growth in Europe and United States. For example, last 8 years was very successful for world economy, more than 3 or 4% economic growth per year. In Russia, we don't have economic growth last 5, maybe 4 years. It's a big problem. Real income is very low, but propaganda works. People believes that source of the problem, it's not Russian policy. Source of the problem, it's policy of another states. For example, Department of the States of United States of America. I think this crazy idea also results of our post-imperial phobia after collapse of Soviet Union. If we were so giant and after collapse we are so small, we need to be strong. We need strong leader like this guy. And 90s in Russia was a very, very bad period in the mind of our common people. And we need strong leader with big ambition, maybe from KGB, doesn't matter. We will win everybody. What about level of poverty in Russia? It's very high level. More than 20 million people live below the income that enough for their life. They're the poorest people in our country. They don't have money for eating, for pharmacy, etc. A very big problem, because right now our parliament tried to ban pharmacy, some types of pills from the Europe, because we would like to create our own pharmacy. But consequences of its policy will be only one: death of the people without good pharmacy. It's very sad. This man is the chief of Rosgvardia. I told you about the link between Putin, his private for the Putin policy, and all the system. This is the chief of this Rosgvardia. I think it's very strange for 21st century. It's look like something very, very bizarre. If you compare the man at the left and man at the right, I think would understand different groups in Russian society. We had 2 types of group. One of this is a modern people with clear mind, with Western point of view, with understanding of human rights, free market economy, etc. This is a man at the right in this picture. He's, I think, not only, he's at this moment only one not fake opposite. He is famous figure in opposition movement, Alexei Navalny. He is a founder of Anti-Corruption Foundation in Russia. And what is the most important project of this foundation? To investigate sources of big capital of our elite. Because if you compare level of income of our people and level of income of top manager from the state's company, it will be, I think, more than biggest Western companies like Apple. I think our state top manager have more wage than Tim Cook or something another. It's a result of our economic policy. If you would like to be a rich man, the best way, not best way, only way to get it, this is to be a part of the state, to be absolutely loyal to the prince, our prince. It's not president, it's something more. At the left, I told you what is the guy. A very interesting struggle in YouTube channel, because I told you about opponents of this YouTube channel for the Russian audience. In the beginning, Alexei Navalny published his video about corruption in Rosgvardia and asked with his own facts about prices, about wages and other. What are the sources of his real estate? His son, at this moment in London, he teaches something in one of the very famous university, not in Russia, because Russian propaganda show us that our leader and his friends, his command, it's not capitalist. They love only Russian, they patriot. But if you will try to analyze real facts about the capital, you will find his money in the United States, in London, in UK, everywhere. And the question was, please, Mr. Zolotov, say to us, what are the sources of your money, of your power? We have one idea. One idea is that you was a security of Mr. Putin in 1990s. Personal security. But after 90s, he became the leader, the chief of biggest private military system of Putin. What is the answer? If you are not afraid, if you're not a pussy, we will go to the corner and I will hit you. Okay? Let's do it. It was an answer. It's a real answer. You can use it in internet. It's something amazing in 21st century. Could you imagine if you ask congressman or senator about, tell us please, what do you think about your money? What is the source of your real estate in this region? Tell us please, because we taxpayers. We would like to know the sources of your money. And the answer, real answer, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's so fun, but it's not a joke. Was, if you're a man, we will fight. Fight in real sense. Boxing or something another. I will show you who is right and who is wrong. And this is the most influential chief of military in Russia today. You're not afraid. We have a link between Russia and United States in Alaska. This crazy man near the United States. It's something amazing. But it's a true story about the people from the Soviet system, dinosaurs. I think it's something like. This is good for comedy for Hollywood. He will be a good actor, yes, for comedy about dictatorship. And enough. This is enough. He's almost ready right now to be a hero of this movie. It will be a very fun movie. But this is not movie. This is a true story about what in Russia today. And right now, Alexei Navalny have many problems with his phone because people from the state try to close his foundation. This very influential blogger, I mean Alexei Navalny, because one of his video was, I think, more than 50 million views. 50 millions. It's something amazing because everybody agree that corruption is a main feature of our system. This is the same thing of Putinism. Corruption is Putinism. Putinism is something like corruption. Friends. This is friend, security, and that's enough. But this is just only one story. If I will have more time, I will show you that it's not only in military, but in the banking system, in industrial and education system. All our big universities are the state universities. All our schools is not private. It's a state school. Maybe it's not correct name for the United States. Public. For our country, it's not public. Public is something more broader than the state. This is state. It's property of the Putin. His own property and his friends. Also, I would like to show you a few pictures about financial system. Maybe it's more professional, but maybe it will be interesting for you because this graph is about the course of about the currency of Russia, ruble, with dollar. It's very interesting because all the period of from the beginning of the century and in the crisis, international crisis from the Wall Street, it's not so bad for our currency. But in 2014, we had $30 per $1, equal $1. This is before sanctions, anti-sanctions, and this is the games with geopolitics. But at this time, we have more than 65 rubles for $1. Devaluation more than twice. More than twice. This is the result of policy. I remember one scene because I was in the TV in this period with a strange man who named himself economist. In Russia, so many people who named himself economist and to use TV in Russia for propaganda and something amazing in economy. And I was only one who said that it will be very bad for Russian people that we have devaluation. The consequences of this, every student from the first courses should know it, will be higher prices. And this is a very bad idea for the common people. What was the main idea of the propaganda, this economist? He said, oh, our people don't know what is dollar. Our people use rubles. We have maybe 20% in Russia who know what is this euro, dollar. It's something like, it's something about capitalism in Western countries. Our people very simple. they don't have any currencies because they don't have enough money. And this is true. This is true that our people don't have enough money, but not true that it will be not high prices for everybody. It was very painful for Russian people after this devaluation. Real income, I show you, real income, wages, and pension has decreased dramatically after this absolutely absurd idea. Okay. I would like also to tell you about prehistory of Putin's regime. It's very interesting because in Soviet period we have very big problem in our economy. I will show you pictures about Soviet economy. It's something crazy for me that in the United States, in New York City, there are so many socialists. Socialism is a good idea for many. They don't know what is socialism because they're not from Russia. Maybe it's a good idea to make something like foundation and to give him a travel to maybe North Korea and maybe to Russia today. But of course, at this moment we don't have centrally planned economy. Maybe to Venezuela, it will be a good idea for destroy this problem. Socialism doesn't work, and I know it because I was born in socialist country. This is absolutely ineffective system. This is just example. This is a photo from the end of this period, 70 years in Russia. And this is a queue to the vodka. Look to this man. It's not iPhone 11. It's not for iPhone 11 queue. There's a queue for the vodka. It's not the joke. It's real photo. Why? Not because Russians like vodka. It's something like meme. It's something absurd. But because it's only one entertainment for Russian people in Soviet period. At this moment, it's something amazing for old-fashioned person that young people don't like to drink vodka, to drink anything. They love to get sport, to jogging and something. This is more fashion for today. Of course, not only in Russia, in Western country also. If you're a cool guy in Soviet period, you have to smoke, to drink from the maybe 12 years. Yeah, and you will cool guy or cool girl. At this moment, it's not so cool because we have enough entertainment without vodka, without anything, internet, YouTube, and etc. But only one entertainment in the Soviet period was drinking. Not only because you are so stupid. Very smart people also drank a lot because they don't have belief in himself. Because if you don't make something that you would like to make, you will drink. And this is, I think, reasonable behavior. It's not so good, but it's understandable. And this is a queue, another queue for the bread in the center of the city. 1 hour, 2 hours. I remember when I was 8 years and we walked with my father to the magazine and trying to buy something. Maybe it was milk or maybe something another. I think it was milk. We spent, I think, 3 or 4 hours at the street in St. Petersburg, for example, right now, near 0 degree. I mean, not in the Celsius. It will be, how much it will be? 42. Very cold at this moment, at the end of September. And in December it will be very colder. And to stay in queue, 1,000 people, and to wait the bread. And, oh, it's not enough bread. Okay, let's go home. We have more enough time for leisure time, but without bread, without milk, etc. Of course, it's not so fun. It was very sad to spend few hours and came back without milk. It was reality. For me, it's a good illustration of Soviet retail. This is retail of Soviet economy. Usually, it looks in the Western countries. You can choose Samsung or iPhone, for example. For Russian magazine, it's something different. At the left, it will be you have no socks. At the right, we have no shoes. Choose. What would you prefer? You're free man in free society. You can choose everything that we have. What would you like what we don't have? No socks? Okay, we don't have. Maybe shoes? We don't have. Just walk. We can walk. We don't have bread. We don't have vodka. We don't have shoes. We don't have socks. But we have enough time for everything. For everything. For drinking. But we don't have vodka. Okay, it's a problem. It's a problem, but maybe few times you need to smile. Only few, because it's not a problem of few days. It's a usual situation. Deficit is another name of centrally planned economy. If you would like to have this in the United States, please make your country socialist again. And you will have something like in Soviet period. I think it's a very sad, very bad idea for every country. Don't speak that socialism is something perfect for our future. Okay, I would like to show you what was the sources of our reform. Soviet economy was very inefficient, but what we have to do? Two branch of thought. One way, we need something like shock therapy, fast moving to the market. What it means shock therapy? Next day you will free prices. The day after next you will have private property. Faster, faster, faster. You don't have enough time for reforms. You need to move quickly. This is a shock therapy. Only one way to survive the life of this man, and this not about the man, this is about economy. If you would like to survive your economy, your economic system, you need to use something painful tools. Painful, for example, it means liberation of the prices, because if you have huge part of money, but you don't have any items, the consequences of free prices will be greatest inflation. In the beginning of 90s, inflation was 5,000% per year, 5,000. But it was only one way to do something with so ineffective system. One way is shock therapy. This is the time, this is wealth. If you choose this way, you will have big problem in short run, but very faster, you will be great country. What is the best example of shock therapy? I think maybe you know about something about this. This is Poland, because Poland economy was completely survived, I think, after 5 years or 6 years after reforms. For example, Russia makes reforms. The level of GDP was like before the crisis or transformation only in 2007. Not 5 years, but 70 years. 70. And the crisis of economy after 2007. Not because Russian, but because world crisis, subprime crisis. Another way, this is look like maybe China, but in Russia we don't have enough Chinese men for this way. No one have enough Chinese men for the China way, gradual way. They have more than 1.5 billion people. In Russia, only 140 million people. It's not enough for choose this way, gradual way. You need to move slowly, very slowly, step by step. Maybe you will have you need 20 years, but without any painful activities. Just a bit, only a bit, step by step to the new economy, but not shock therapy. This is the theory. What is about reality in Russia? I think it's a crazy mix of these two types of reforms. In the beginning, it was like something shock therapy. But our politicians afraid this and to do something another. As a result, we have very, very long period of economic growth. What is the reason? I think the first reason of this is idea. Because no one in Russia don't understand what is free market. 70 years we had only this type of knowledge. Marx, Lenin, and Engels. And also was Stalin. And it's a problem for our economists in the 90s because, for example, one of the famous economists in this period was Yegor Gaidar. He was free market mind, but he was from Soviet Russia economy. What he said about what we should do? Not to create free market. History has left us a chance to repeat the English model of social development. It is impossible to transfer the means of production into the hands of the nouvarishi, new riches, of the shadow economy, enemy of the free market, I think, and chiefs of international corporation. It's something absolutely like Naomi Klein. And we need to improve socialism. It's not so strange that we have so many problems in Russia today, because if we didn't invest enough our attention to the ideas of what is this to be free, what is this is free market economy, you will have something like Putinism. And in the end of my presentation, I would like to quote, I think, greatest politician in the history of the world, maybe in the world, Richard Cobden. He was a very influential politician from the 19th century. In the middle of the century, he banned corn law against the import law to England from the France. And this is the, for me, main idea of any reforms, an idea for the future, not only for Russia. I repeat you again that I begin the story with a very excellent idea when our president, very young, if you compare with Yeltsin, said, main idea for us is competition. And the famous figure is Erhard. And what today? Something another. Why? For me, reason is ignorance of idea, ignorance in economic theory. And this is because Carthage College courses about microeconomics, macroeconomics, very important for the Western countries, for the Russia. And I think, I hope that my trilogy of freedom is the one of the important step to this enlightenment. Because without enlightenment, we will again and again in the situation without freedom. What about Cobden? If you get the freedom of exchange without understanding its meaning, it will be easy to lose it again. Thank you for your attention. It's a time for Q&A. I would like to try to give you an answer. Any comments, any ideas can be used for our conversation. Okay? No? Yes, okay.
I'm, by the way, a professor here at Carthage in physics and astronomy, so I'm not an economist, but
It's not a problem. It's a good advantage.
yes. I'm also Canadian, so I'm a hockey, so I have
It's
great
excellent.
respect and fear of you Russians, although we are better than you.
Excellent.
My question is about the rural support of Putin versus the cities. You talk a lot
Versus
about
what?
versus the cities. We hear you're from St. Petersburg,
Yes.
which is where Putin is from.
Yes.
And Moscow, where a lot of the protests occurred. And what is the situation more in the smaller cities or villages outside of, and in the rural?
Mm-hmm.
Is it still true that Putin is popular and strong outside of the cities, or is this a myth?
At this time, right, in this year, we have big changes because our social research show us that people became not the fan of the Putin's regime. It's a result of maybe 1/2 of year. And it's not about big cities. It's very interesting because social scientists thought that Putin is something like TV. It's more important than your dinner. But today, people understood that the problem is not in other countries. And in the small villages, in the small cities, it's the same thing. Protest movement became more and more active, but active not in the field of meeting at the squares because nobody want to be jailed and nobody want to finish his career. I think it's a silent protest. It's something like old period of Soviet economy when nobody tried to tell the truth about the party. Nobody needed. But everybody told to another, to the friends in the kitchen, that it's something amazing, it's something horrible that we can see today. And maybe the hope for the future is that it will be like Soviet collapse, faster. Nobody predict this in the 90s. If you remember this period, researcher from United States didn't predict that Soviet economy will be collapsed after 80s. But nobody needs this Soviet system. Nobody. 70 years of propaganda, 70 years of absolutely power in the state, and the problem of the state, it's not the problem of the citizen in the moment of collapse. Nobody needs USSR. Nobody. And I think it's a good example. Maybe it's something like example for the future. Nobody immortal.
Like off that point, how a state like Venezuela just took up socialism recently and then completely collapsed.
Yes.
Why do you think that continues to happen?
I would like to show you one. It's a big theme, not for a few words. I would like to show you one presentation, not my, but my colleague, author of the book Putinomics. I would like to show this. Yes, what? 3 pillars of Putinomics. It's not my view. this view of my colleague from United States. Why this system is so sustainable for this period, 20 years, and very sustainable, very high level of supporting of the people. First, because these specialists think that Putin uses sound macroeconomic management. Maybe it sounds not so obviously, but in the period of the Putin's regime, it was more liberal. I told you about 13% flat income tax. And the advisor of Putin was fan of Ayn Rand, Andrei Illarionov, from the Carter Institute, advisor of economy. And it was very successful, I mean, in technical sense. In technical sense, I show you that it was a period of economic growth. And Putin was not illiberal in economic field in the beginning of his period. In the first period, he was maybe more liberal than Yeltsin and another politician. But step by step, things changed. But what about Maduro and Putin? Putin, it's not Maduro because he has experience of our hyperinflation in Russia in 90s. Maduro have only one experience, to drive a bus and to think like a great leadership in Venezuela. I mean Maduro, don't have any experience and no one smart economist of all period, only crazy man. Putin is not crazy. He's usual politician, but without big power, without background from the KGB. But KGB doesn't mean that he would like to destroy his own economy. Of course, the dream of every dictator is to die in his own bed, his own death, like Stalin. Not as a result of killing or something like that. I know about the different ideas, but it was not death, but killing. It's not so important for this story. If you ask me about differences between Venezuela and Russia, of course, Russian economic policy is very bad. This is bad governance, but not absolutely absurd. Because in the field of the Putin, he had a few, it sounds in Russia, sislips, systemные liberалы, system liberals, or system maybe like Republicans, but with the friends of, I don't know, not true Republican, just the name. But part of this liberal is the true liberal, maybe just in few periods, just one period. But it's enough for understanding long term of your policy. This is very smart to use political repression if you want to hold the power. It's smart way. If you are dictatorship, it's a right tool for you. And also right tool for you, not only repression, but you need maybe not so perfect economy, but not like in Venezuela, because if you will have like in Venezuela, you will have nothing. and Putin doesn't want to be Maduro. It's not the way for him. And as a result, few scholars think that our central bank, our Department of Finance, is a professional. We have many strange person like Zolotov, but he is not the chief of central bank. Could you imagine this person, this camp? It's something that maybe worse than Bernanke and another policy of Federal Reserve. Yes, and it means that it's very important for Putin's system to have stagnation, but not depression. You was the first.
Given the power structure in Russia, one man at the top and very powerful oligarchs, what will be the method of succeeding Putin at which time he chooses to step down, if he can, without losing his life?
Another way of change our system in Russia. Not. Could you clarify what do you ask about our system? Because if I will show you the structure of our political elites.
I believe he's term limited by your constitution. He may violate that, but if he chooses at some point in time in his life, he's old, and he decides he wants to step down, is it possible for him to step down? Are there many powerful people below him?
Yes, I thank you for clarifying. I understood. I think I understood. I think it's later. At this moment, it's later to jump from this train for the Putin, because he made some difficulties for the very, very influential people, not only in Russia, but in the Western countries too. If he made something like, okay, I'm so tight, I will go to the Spain, and or maybe to United States, and it will be the story like maybe what is the name of Chile dictator, Pinochet, like Pinochet. Without power, Putin will have many problems and maybe will be in the prison. I don't know this way, but problems. Old man without power and with a big problem and big conflicts. And I think that he, at this moment, have only one way of doing, to try to hold his power in his hand before, until the end of his life. Another way will be very risky for him, very risky. Because without power, it's very sad story for a dictator, especially for this.
And one more, you mentioned Andrei Larionov,
Yes.
who I happen to know, and I told him that I had read that Putin's net worth was approximately 15 billions of US dollars equivalent. And Andrei has told me, no, it is more. More than 15 million. Would you care to comment on the net worth?
Bills? You said about bills? More than 50 million.
15 billion of dollars.
In what?
That's the net worth, the wealth of Mr. Putin.
Ah, I see.
His wealth.
I think it's like to calculate a level of the income of maybe Ivan Grozny in Russia or maybe Caesar, and it doesn't matter, because all our country in the hand of the Putin, maybe it will be equal our economy. Our economy, it's near, I think, to maybe $1.5 trillion. This all our economy today. For example, U.S. economy more than $20 trillion. I think it's correct to calculate the wealth of our leadership through the level of GDP. We can't calculate because For example, our railway company is a private, but 100% of this property in the hand of the state. We have many private companies in the hand of Putin's friends. You can't calculate how much really Putin's have in Russian economy. Maybe 50 millions, maybe 150 billions, maybe 100 billions. Because how could you calculate this capital if we talk about, for example, natural resources of this biggest country in the world? Is it the property of Putin or not? Officially, of course, it's not the private, it's not the property of Putin, but he doesn't have limits. You should to understand that Russia is not like Western countries. You can cut your own money and money of the state. Imagine that you are not the president. You are like something from Egypt, ancient Egypt. You have all in this country. All is your private property, your own private property. And I think the correct name of the private property in Russia, it's not the property. It's a property equal power. Power, property. This is the one source of Putin's regime, I think so. I'm not sure that we have a good way to calculate how much capital in the hands of Putin, because most of his money, it's money of his friends, and not in Russia. It's something amazing. I can't imagine how it will work to calculate his power. Unlimited. One word, unlimited. I think unlimited.
So you said more and more people are becoming dissatisfied with Putin.
Yes.
How many people do you think are turning to parties like KPRF compared to liberal parties like Yabloko?
I think enough people trying to choose something another. He start to thought. This is just the beginning of the process. One of these people understand that the KPRF, this Communist Party in Russia today, that's a fake party, and it's something strange to support this party because they get money from the Kremlin. Another party, LDPR, Liberal Democracy Party, this leader Zhirinovsky, he believes that we will have a territory of Russia like an Russian Empire in the middle of 19th century. It was Poland, Finland, and Alaska in Russian hands. And what it means, our opposition, Zhirinovsky, leader of one of the party, formerly opposite, believes that we should retire to get back our Alaska, our Poland, our Finland, Ukraine. I think you know how much it was Russian Empire before 20th century. But he is a clone. Everybody understood that he is a clone. It's not so important to vote for him because he also got his money from the Kremlin, like a communist. And I think that more and more people became critical, not about person, like Putin or Union Russia Party or Communist Party. I think that it's something like shift of the view that the problem is not the hand of the state and the groups. It's very amazing for me because for Russia is a usual way to wait that state will help you and believe to have a good president, chief, etc. At this moment, and this is a result of social investigation, very big part of our society became critical about this. They don't believe in the government. In this moment, it looks like libertarian because people, for the question of the social researchers, say that we don't hope that we will have a pension for the government, for the state. We don't believe that we can find a job for the state. We don't believe. We don't believe in anything that our politicians say to us. It's something like smart people. But I think it's not a result of good reasoning. It's a result of bad experience in believing in the God state.
Usanov, why don't we have one last question and then adjourn the formal part of the meeting?
Okay, thank you. Last question. Would you like to ask me something about Russian politics, economy, maybe something another? Would you like? Okay.
Do the people have access to guns, and do you see any potential for them to try and overthrow Putin?
At this moment, of course not, because if you don't have a gun, you don't have a freedom. First idea of freedom in my mind in the United States, it's to have your own guns and your own property to protect yourself, because if you don't have a weapon for protect yourself, you have a monopoly of the state, and you will have a slavers of the state. I showed you the picture. At the left, it was a man with sticks, and at the right, common people without anything. And this is a result of ban of private guns and etc. Of course, Putin is not a crazy man. He wouldn't change something for more freedom to people. It's very dangerous. I think he's not good guy, but he's not stupid. I don't think that it's a good idea that he's smart, but he enough smart for his role, for this system. He's not so smart man. If you listen his speech, this is very primitive logic, very primitive. Yeah, this is not so intelligent people, intelligent man, and for our society, it's not best governments, of course, very bad governments. Because this man doesn't use internet, for example. He thought like a man from KGB in Soviet period. He's not smart. He's from the old-fashioned socialism. He think like officer of KGB. He afraid new technologies. Because I think one of the reasons because he tried to ban this because he can't understand how it works. People send something in another, speak what they want to speak, and it's very, very dangerous for him. And for me, it means that he's not smart guy, because smart guy trying to learn new, to make something new, but it's not the case about Putin. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Carthage College. Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me.
Yes, no, you're a formidable fellow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Question
Of course, I will do his. This is my book, and this is a blurb of Andrei Illarionov about my book.
Very
we're not a friend, but we're colleagues. I know him very well.
He's at the Cato Institute.
Yes,
I-
yes.
I